Okay, Revelation chapter 14. This is a difficult passage to understand where the elements of this chapter fits. That's the main difficulty here. However, the images, the scenes that we see unfolding make a lot of sense. We just went through chapter 12 and 13. 12 showing how Satan is always after Israel, trying to kill her and destroy her. And when God protects Israel supernaturally, Satan goes after the rest of the world. So that's gruesome. And then 13 shows the rise of the Antichrist and the false prophet by the power of Satan. And that was from the midpoint of the tribulation on. Because to remind us, the Antichrist is introduced to us. I mean, even before the tribulation, we know the man. We don't know his identity, but he is a peaceful figure that rules the world in the first half of the tribulation, and then he commits the abomination of desolation in the temple, where he desecrates the temple and ruins the treaty between he and Israel, and then makes war against Israel. That's why Israel runs away from the city and hides themselves, but God protects them. And so then he goes after the rest of the world. And we get the mark of the beast. We're not going to get it because we ain't going to be here. But if you are a Christian during this time, don't get it. Um, we left off yesterday by saying um, much of temptation in this world comes from the need to protect our lives and the need to have money. And so rid yourself of the need for those things and recognize that God is your provider of both of those. And that will prepare you for any tribulation. Um, you don't need the world to provide you safety, and you don't need the world to provide you money. You can be provided those things by God. He controls when you eat, what you wear, and how long you live. And you can put all your trust in him. So 14 then, because that's very grim. 14 is like, okay, John, let me show you how this thing ends. And then it's going to end. So 15, 16 will be all of the bowls of wrath. Remember back in chapter 11, the seventh trumpet was blown, and within the seven trumpets are seven bowls of wrath. And it's like, those are upon us, but we haven't yet experienced them yet in this book of Revelation, because Jesus has been showing John some other scenes that are happening during the time. Okay, so that's what you got to keep in mind. So in 14, the scenes we're seeing are of the end in Christ's glory and victory. So this is a good scene. We love chapter 14. We're a big fan of chapter 14, if we can understand it. So let's understand it. Okay, so this is the picture. John looks and he beholds on Mount Zion, which is, I believe, an earthly temple in Jerusalem, because anytime Mount Zion is referenced, uh, referenced, it's referencing an earthly mount, unless it says heavenly in it, as in, I think, Hebrews 12. So this is a earthly. So on this earthly Mount Zion stands the Lamb and 144,000 Jewish people, which were converts back in chapter 7. Jesus saves them, and they are the evangelists of the tribulation period. Well, they are still alive, because in chapter 7, when it talks about them, it says they were sealed from every tribe. Sealed means protected and kept. So they were kept in the tribulation period and protected, and they were not killed. So they enter into the millennium, which comes right after the tribulation. So we got 7-year tribulation and then 1,000-year millennium. During the millennium, Jesus is on the earth ruling and reigning as the king. He is the king. And he comes into this time period with the 144,000 who are already on the earth. So follow me here. All of the Christians that have died, those who were raptured up, and those who were martyred during the tribulation, they're in heaven. And we're going to see them come to earth in chapter 19. But right now, they're probably on the earth, but we're not looking at them because this is a different scene. So don't get confused. So let me recap. Jesus is standing on Mount Zion. He has 144,000 with him who survived the tribulation, and they are still alive in the millennium. And they're special. They're being highlighted right now. Okay? There's other people that are part of the story too, but we're just looking at them. And John hears a voice from heaven, and he gives three similes. He says it's like a roar of many waters. It's a sound of loud thunder. So it's loud, it's powerful, and it's beautiful. It's the sound of harpists playing on their harps. It's like that. And this is the sound that he's actually hearing. It's a song being sung before the throne in heaven and before the four living creatures and before the elders. So this song that's being played in heaven is being heard in Jerusalem. They install some outdoor speakers. No, I'm just kidding. But the singing in heaven is being heard on the earth, and the 144,000 are singing it. It says no one can learn that song except the 144,000. I don't know why that is. I don't know why they can only hear it. Maybe because everyone else on the earth at this time, they aren't redeemed. I don't know. Verse 4, it is these who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. It is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been redeemed from mankind as firstfruits for God and the Lamb, and in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. So just referencing their life on earth was blameless, and they are the first fruits of God. So they were plucked first, and through them, they're going to propagate the rest of the earth. So all of God's raptured saints, the church that was in heaven with him during the tribulation period, they will be glorified saints on earth, ruling and reigning with him. They will not marry. They will be immortal. They will have their new glorified bodies. They'll be a different creature than these 144,000. The 144 will have their normal bodies, not their new bodies, and they will still get married. They can still have kids. They will repopulate the earth. So they're the first fruits for God during this time. So in the millennial kingdom, there's going to be Jesus at the top. All of the church, the raptured and martyred saints with their glorified bodies are going to be ruling and reigning the earth. They're going to be kind of like in charge. And then we got all of the normal humans that come from these 144,000 who are the first fruits, and they're going to repopulate the whole earth. There's going to be billions of them before long. Okay. So yeah, that's the first section. Verses 1 through 5 show a scene of Christ after the Armageddon, which is the last battle, establishing his kingdom through worship, beginning with the 144,000. Next, in the chapter, verse 6 through 13, is not next chronologically. It is a vision, another vision of three angels, and they're warning the world of something. This is the last chance to repent, they basically say. They have an eternal gospel, and they say, fear God, give him glory. The hour of judgment has come. Worship God, who made heaven and earth, the sea and the springs of water. That's the first angel. Repent and believe the gospel and worship Jesus. The next angel says, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality. So the Babylon the Great represents the worldwide system ruled by the Antichrist and the false prophet. And this world system has fallen. And he's showing everybody, don't buy into it anymore. Reject the world system and come under the kingdom of Christ. This is your last chance, your second last chance. And then your third last chance, the third angel, he says, if anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark, you're going to drink the wine of God's wrath. You're going to be judged and placed into an eternal hell. He describes it further by saying, the full strength into the cup of his anger will be you will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. You will see Jesus in hell, the one whom you rejected. The smoke of your torment will go up forever and ever. This is the eternality of hell. You do not die in hell. You do not just get tortured until you quit. There's no quitting. You can't quit. That's the hopelessness that's there. You will have no rest, day or night. In fact, you will get a new body so that you can endure it without dying. You will get a redeemed, not redeemed really, but a resurrected body with greater abilities to endure punishments. And that's because you worshiped the beast and its image, and you receive the mark of its name. Now remember, this is how we avoid receiving the mark of the beast. If you're going to be a raptured saint, then you don't have to worry about it, but you could still give into the spirit of Antichrist today by looking to people and institutions other than God to protect your life or provide you food, clothing, and other monetary benefits. Get off the welfare system, so to speak, and get on the kingdom system. Let God be your welfare. He protects. He determines your life. He provides you economic benefits, food, clothing, shelter, etc. And it may not be to the level you want, and you may have to work for it, but that's his design. And if you can't work, that's what the church is for. That's what his body is for, is to provide. Let Jesus Christ and his church be your welfare system through the means that he has instituted, and you will not give in to the worldly system, because the world system claims to provide those things, but what is attached to it is sin. You will have to give up your morals and righteousness in order to have those things. So practice now on this earth before the judgment comes, not giving in to this worldly system, not taking the quote unquote mark of the beast, because this is representative of things other than the specific mark that will happen during the end of the tribulation. And what I just gave you was an exhortation that verse 12 gives. Here is a call for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and their faith in Jesus. Endure till the end. Judgment is coming. And that's another thing that comforts us in waiting and endurance, is the fact that God will judge sinners. And so we can be patient because he's going to take care of it all. He's going to take care of us. He's going to protect us. He's going to bring us to heaven. He's going to feed us and clothe us. And also he's going to judge sinners. That's not on us. It's on him. Verse 13, I heard a voice from heaven saying, write this, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord. From now on, blessed indeed, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors for their deeds. No rest for the wicked. They're going to be in hell for an eternity without rest or hope. But we can rest when we die. And even in death, there is a hope, because we will live forever in our rest with Jesus in heaven. Last section, we got Armageddon. This is a different view of Armageddon. It's a different perspective. John's seeing it before it actually happens, and it will be fulfilled in a few chapters. So he sees Jesus on a white cloud, seated on the cloud like a son of man. You know, Matthew 24:30 says that Jesus is going to come on the clouds. Daniel says it. And Zechariah, I think Zechariah says it. There's a third reference, I forget right now. But we know that this is Jesus sitting on the cloud because many scriptures point to that. But Jesus in chapter 14, verse 1, was on the Temple Mount, and now he's in the clouds. So, best way to understand this is we kind of go back in time right before Jesus is standing on the Temple Mount with the 144,000 saved, and this is as he's descending from heaven on the clouds. Now, it doesn't say this here, but his church is with him in glorious white robes. Let me see if I can find that real quick. In chapter 19, I'm going to pause and find it real. Okay, so yeah, chapter 19, verse 11. Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. So this is like the same scene for being fulfilled. But what we see in chapter 14 is the preview of it. In 14, it says, and the armies of heaven arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. So we all get a white horse, and we're coming down to judge the world with Jesus. So this is the church. Okay. So back to verse 14. In chapter 14, we see Jesus. He's coming down. He has a sharp sickle in his hand. A sickle is like a curved machete that farmers would use to harvest the grain. So this is a grain harvest. And this angel comes out of the temple and he yells at Jesus, but I can only imagine it was done respectfully. You know, angels, they got like a really strong personality. And he yells at Jesus and says, put in your sickle and reap, for the hour to reap has come, for the harvest of the earth is fully ripe. I'm not sure why I went into like an actor's voice right there. That was weird. So he is saying it's time to reap. Now, this is not I don't think this is a killing. I think this is a gathering of Christians because this matches with Matthew 25, the sheep and goat judgment. And I'm turning there now. So it's like a sorting. It's the final judgment. Chapter 25, verse 31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne. That's on the millennium throne. Before him will be gathered all the nations, and he'll separate people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep and the goats. So sheep are good, goats are bad. And he will place the sheep on his right, but the goats on the left. And then the king will say to those on his right, the sheep, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you. So this is the millennial kingdom that we get to inherit and walk into as sheep. Now, the raptured saints are going to get the kingdom, but we're not going to walk into it because we're going to inherit it. We're going to come down on the white horses with him. But the people that are still alive on the earth that have not taken the mark of the beast are being harvested right now, meaning gathered. They're not being killed because then they would be just with us, raptured saints. So they're going to be protected on into the tribulation. I'm sorry, the millennium. And they're also going to help repopulate the earth. Okay, so we got the 144,000 Jews, plus we got all of these people, the grain harvest, that Jesus right now is harvesting. He's gathering them into his kingdom and he's separating them. And then, verse 17, we see another angel and another sickle and another harvest. So this is round two. Imagine all the goats there now, which represent the ungodly. And an angel comes out from the altar, the angel who has authority over the fire. And he called with a loud voice to the one who had the sharp sickle. This was an angel. Put in your sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, for its grapes are ripe. Now that sounds pleasant. That sounds like it might be godly people, but this is what it says. They're thrown into the great winepress of the wrath of God. This is when Jesus and his armies, with his angels and the raptured saints, the church, slaughter the wicked armies of the earth. We're going to learn more about that in chapter 19. But this is a judgment, and the winepress was trodden. When a wine press, you would put all these grapes into a big vat, and then you would basically walk on them and trod them, step on them, and that would smash the grapes, and you'd get grape juice, and you'd ferment it into wine. And blood flowed from the wine press as high as the horse's bridle. So instead of grapes being trodden, it's people. And this is a mass killing of the bodies of the ungodly people at the end of the tribulation. So that's chapter 14. Like I said, the most difficult part of this chapter is learning where everything goes in it. But what's happening is a little more clear. So you got to hold all these pieces together. You got Jesus. He's going to sit on the throne in his millennial kingdom. There's going to be people that have survived into the millennial kingdom that are going to repopulate the earth. There's going to be billions of people in the earth that are come from godly families. Not everyone's going to be Christian though during that time, because we got another Armageddon, the last battle that happens at the end of the millennial kingdom. Well, where do those ungodly people come from? From the parents of these. You say, that's crazy. I know, it is. It's crazy that during this time, people still don't believe. Well, it shows the God is sovereign over salvation. But then also you got the church, the raptured saints and the martyrs, the Old Testament saints making up the glorified saints during this time. They will not marry, they will not have kids during this time, but they will rule and reign with Christ. So what does this tell us? This tells us that Christ is the King. And even now, we've been graciously brought into his kingdom. But it's hard to live during this time because we don't see all these things fulfilled. But we will. We just have to endure and we have to persevere to the end and stay ready. Stay busy doing the kingdom work now. When you get discouraged, when you get bored, when you get tired of fighting, that's a call to double down and work even harder to bring about God's kingdom on this earth. Pray harder, evangelize harder, serve harder at church. Do all these things to the glory of God, not to earn your salvation, because this is how you stay in the fight. Sharpen the sword. You know, keep fighting. Keep keep helping others fight, and that's how you stay ready. And that's our privilege to do during this church age that we're in now. And it's not even that dangerous. So that's why you're bored. But you can make it more exciting by working harder for God's kingdom. And so I just challenge everyone to do that today. Look for ways to serve, to love, to pray, to evangelize, all for the glory of God.